Hey, so I want to share my opinions on K. Michelle's recent interview with V103 Atlanta because unfortunately she's being dragged all over social media by a certain demographic of men. But if you have not seen the interview, it may be worth it to go to V103 Atlanta's YouTube page and watch it if you have about 28 or 29 minutes. Because contrary to the sound bites and snippets that people are triggered over, she actually had a really good conversation with the people who were interviewing her. And she talked about a lot of different things. Now, one of the things she said is that in her view, she doesn't think that men are good people. And she didn't say that about a specific race of men. She wasn't, singling any particular group of men out. But yet, there is one particular group of men who are all the way in their feelings, and they're assuming that she meant that for them. And that's just another reminder that a hit dog will always holler and a spoken bullet will always find its target. Okay? So you have black men all over social media, just dragging this woman and ignoring everything else that was discussed in that interview. She talked about a lot of things, and she basically said that in her family, she had seen some wonderful examples of manhood, and it was very disappointing to her to realize that those men were the exception and not the rule. She said it was disappointing to her to realize that while she had raised her son in a pro-black household, and that while the majority of her family is pro-black, it's disappointing to her that her son, who is now 16 or 17, is pursuing a relationship with a girl who is not black. And that's just more proof that pro-blackness does not require the loyalty to or the prioritization of black women. Black boys and black men very much understand that they can call themselves race loyal without actually having to be loyal to the women of their race. And that's very different because amongst other races of men, if they are part of these race loyal groups, it is imperative for them to only date, mate, marry, and procreate with a woman of their own race. Yet race loyalty and racial supremacy amongst black people does not require that of black men. So that's why you have so many black men who really believe that they can be pro-black and deal with other races of women to the point where they believe they can create a new race of black women without the black womb. So that was an interesting part of the conversation that I've noticed no one's really talking about. No one's talking about the fact that at one point in the interview, she actually broke down and cried when she talked about how painful it is to her for women who support her to come up to her and tell her all their stories about the ways that they have been damaged by men. She said it was disappointing to her because she was in a certain environment, maybe a business environment, and a black man came up to her and asked her why she didn't have security. And she said she looked at him and she was like, well, there are so many black men here. She was like, and it's men's job to protect women and children. And she said it bothers her to look around and realize that black men don't feel that type of connection to black women. They don't feel any duty to defend, honor, or protect. Okay? And so I think that was a very good conversation. And I'm going to say something that some people may find controversial, but I don't think it's actually a bad idea for those of us who are, out of our teenage years as women. I don't think it's a bad idea for us to tell younger black women and black girls that generally speaking, men are not nice people, because they're not. They're not designed to be nice. Okay, if you're going to be out here ruling and conquering the world and amassing resources and so on and so forth, you have to have a bit of a nefarious aspect to your personality. And it's also important for us as Black women to teach younger Black women and Black girls that men, particularly Black men, are not taught to be good people to Black women, so that more of those young women and girls will understand that when it comes to entering any type of a romantic relationship, you have to be mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally prepared at all times. And you can't assume what a person will or will not do to you. You can't assume that men are honest, because they'll lie to get what they want. You can't assume that you can walk into situations unprepared, because the reality is that in a lot of ways where relationships can break down and be emotionally painful to women are ways in which we're left holding the bag of emotional damage, and in a lot of cases certain responsibilities. So more of us as Black women should be telling other Black women, listen, there are certain things you need to prepare yourself for, and there are certain situations that you should avoid, because if you get into that situation and you allow yourself to be financially dependent on the wrong man, then when he leaves you, you'll be destitute. If you allow yourself to end up in certain types of relationships and then that man decides not to, if you are in certain types of relationships and then the man decides not to marry you and he leaves you, and you have not prepared for your future financially, then you could very easily be dealing with homelessness in your older age as a woman. Okay, in a society that is not going to care that much about you because you're a woman who is unprotected, because you're a Black woman. You know, we have to be better at being honest with other Black women and saying, listen, there are certain types of men that will have you all the way effed up if you get with the wrong man and have a child with him. Because if that man leaves you and abandons your financial or his financial and other parental responsibilities, you're going to be the one that has to deal with that. And if you aren't prepared for that, don't get into the situation. You know, we have to stop wanting to tell people things that sound good and tell them the truth. And so when K. Michelle is in this interview on this radio station telling millions of women listening that, hey, men are not good people, it doesn't sound like a nice thing to say, but more Black women need to hear that and really process it and stop living in la la land. Stop ignoring the out of wedlock rate, the STD and STI rates for Black women. Stop ignoring that and start preparing yourself. Start choosing better. Start protecting yourself and your interests at all cost, because it would serve you well to never assume anything good about men when they are predatory by nature. And if you've been in BWE and other Black women-centered spaces long enough, you will know that there have been Black women before us who have said the same thing. Hey, ladies, men are predatory by nature, so here's how you prepare yourself. Because we're not meant to be an island unto ourselves, as the saying goes. Companionship can be a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to love and be loved. But it's intelligent to be guided by your brain and not your heart. And that's pretty much what I got from K. Michelle's interview. So if you saw the interview, let me know what you think in the comments section, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.